Welcome, I am Pablo Palomino, I am a cultural historian organizing this Teach Out, and I have the pleasure today of having a conversation with Vialla Hartfield-Méndez, Professor of Spanish and Director of Engaged Learning at Emory University, and also with Julio Peñaranda, General Manager at Plaza Fiesta. Maybe, Julio, we can start our conversation by asking a very simple question. Where are we?
Well, Plaza Fiesta is the community ground point for the Latino community here in Georgia. We cater to Hispanics of all nations, and we want to give them a safe haven, a safe place for them to feel warm and comfortable and feel like they're back at home.
And Vialla, how did you get to connect with this place?
I moved to Atlanta in 1992, and at that time there were, my husband is from Mexico, and we had a hard time finding tortillas. But when Plaza Fiesta was built, about 8 years later, something like that, and not even built, but renovated to be Plaza Fiesta, it became one of the places where we came to. We could see it as a place where the Hispanic community was beginning to be very evident and present in Atlanta.
So you arrived here to Atlanta in 1992,
yes.
And several years later you saw this Hispanic center being built. So can you tell us, Julio, what did you find when you moved to Atlanta?
In 2002, when I came in to the Atlanta area, the Hispanic community was already in fairly large numbers. It was mismatched all over the place. It wasn't very solidified, and they had one of the biggest places for them to come out and shop and hang out was right here in Plaza Fiesta, and that's when I came in and took over as operations manager, and then we just started building it up from there. In 2006, there was a big demonstration for community involvement, community joinity, and that's when the whole community signed up as one. And we had about 200,000 people in our parking lot when we did a march down Dresden Road, and it created all sorts of awareness for the rest of the population in the Atlanta metro area, that nobody knew that we were here and that we were so many.
Wow. Wow. So and how did the place look like at that time?
It looks a little bit like what you see back here, a lot more rustic. Over the years, it has developed a little bit more into less rustic, less less Mexican, and a little bit more modern, Latin modern feel.
Latin modern feel, feeling.
Yeah.
So, what was the intention in the design of the space?
The intention in the design of the space was to replicate the mercados that you see in Mexico City or in Guadalajara or any other Mexican city, and that's why you see small booths replicated so people can set up a shop if they need just one small 10 by 10 space, or if they need 10 of them in order to have a bigger store. So that was the idea, replicate that, and also bring in the facade look so that it would feel like you're back in a town, hence the fountain, which is the center stone of any town in any Latin American city.
And Vialla, how did you encounter this place, and you started to work in this place or connecting this place to Emory?
So in the early 2000s, there was a sense at Emory that students had no idea that, as you say, that there was this Hispanic community in Atlanta, or even how to connect with that community. Most of the students didn't have a good idea. And so I began a course, a community engaged learning course, and we started working with some of the organizations in this area in the Beaufort Highway corridor. And as I've taught that course and some other courses, one of the things that I often do is bring students to the Beaufort Highway corridor, and we always come to Plaza Fiesta. And it's an amazing place for students to discover for the first time if they haven't been here, and if they have been here, to discover with new eyes, thinking about the things that we're talking about in the courses. It's a really, it's a hybrid kind of place as well, and it's one of those places where that cultural hybridity is something that students can begin to observe and experience and understand why it looks the way it does, with this intentionality around looking like a pueblo from Mexico, but not really being a pueblo, being really an old mall, an old mall that had been failing before it was transformed in this way. And that's a really interesting conversation for students.
So we have Atlanta as a big metropolitan area with population very much dispersed, not only the Latino population, but in general.
In general.
And then this place becomes sort of a nucleus, a hub where people can gather. And you mentioned that many nationalities feel a little bit at home here, but that is mostly a Mexican, or it intends to replicate a Mexican town. But it's a hybrid place, as Vialla just said. As you said, maybe we should talk a little bit about how this place was transformed over time. What do you know about this?
In the early 40s and 50s, this used to be a cow pasture. It used to be a farm. In the late 60s, Woolworths purchased a big plot of land and built one of the biggest Woolworths in the state. So early 70s, all throughout the 70s and 80s, this used to be the hub for people to come out and shop and eat, because they used to have restaurants inside the Woolworths. The 80s and 90s, the mall was a community center, but in the 90s it was more of a fledgling, dying mall. It was vacant. And then late 90s, local developers purchased the whole property, thinking about demolishing and building a Kroger, because Kroger was looking for a location. When Kroger decided to go to another space and purchase their own land, then they were stuck with it. They're like, what do we do? Then they saw the whole community that was around it, all the Latin community, and they took a trip down to Mexico. They saw the markets, the mercados. Like, let's do that. And that's how it came.
And how do people, and this is a question for both of you, like, how do people use this space? Because you come with some students or people related to Emory who are a little bit puzzled by this hybrid place, and you're mentioning families coming here. How is that? How?
In the Latin community, when we go out to dominguear, right? It's to spend the whole day together as a family, to go out and visit a new site, spend the whole day together, shop, eat, spend time together as a family unit. That's the kind of environment that we create here. We want to create an environment where people can feel comfortable staying the entire day. And we have a lot of folks that come out from South Carolina, from Tennessee, and they literally spend the whole day out here. Not only because it takes them 3-4 hours to get down here, but because once they're here, they have food, they have sightseeing, they have entertainment for the kids, they have places to sit so they can stand here all day long. They have snacks, and that's what we try to give them, an opportunity for them to share a bridging community within their children who have never been to Mexico or Honduras or wherever they're from, and they can teach their children, look, this is what we do, this is what we did when I was your age. I used to jump in the fountain and my grandma used to kick me out with a chancla. This is the type of candy that we eat down there, because the candy that we eat down there is very different from the Jolly Ranchers and the gum that we eat here. So they can enjoy being Hispanic when they're born and raised here in the United States.
How's the experience for the other people
this is a really interesting side of memory for all kinds of different people. So if you're talking about somebody who remembers this being a cow pasture, that's really different from somebody who remembers it being a mall where you would go, as I just found out, to a movie theater that had themed on Gone with the Wind, right? That's a very different kind of memory. And then there are people who are making memories now and wanting to create a particular kind of memory for their children And that intergenerational aspect, I think, is really important. How I experience with students is Emory has more and more Latino students, not all from Atlanta. Many of them are from other areas. And students from California, students from other areas, really resonate with this place in ways that is interesting for their classmates, right? Who don't have a good sense of what this kind of place might be like. It's just a really, it's a place that sparks conversation. It's a place that welcomes everybody and gives all of us a way into memories in some way.
So Plaza Fiesta has undergone several transformations over the past 16 or even more years. So can you tell us a little bit how the place itself was transformed?
It's always evolving. We always trying to look and how we could better the center. So when it opened up, it had mesh curtains. It didn't have a finished floor. So those are the small details that we started changing. Creating better security, creating better atmosphere for it. But we also started developing newer architecture style. So you'll see this old style type of architecture, but in the newer markets that we've opened up, you'll see more modern Hispanic colors, more modern look, a more slick feeling. You still get the sense that you're transported somewhere else, but it's not the old town. It's more of a new city, new style type of a place. We've also started doing a lot more betterments for the building, bringing it up to the 21st century. Automatic doors, better bathrooms, better kitchen facilities, much better air conditioning units, because everybody deserves to be in a comfortable, safe environment.
And where do you see Plaza Fiesta going? In what direction is it going in terms of the ideals of progress that you or the community you're part of?
We see Plaza Fiesta being more of a bridge to combining the Anglo community and the Hispanic community. Now anybody can come in and experience a different ethnicity, a different feel, look, taste to what they're used to without having to go to the airport and bringing out their passport. So if you want to experience Mexico, you want to experience Latin America, just come out here, spend 2 hours, and you'll be immersed into a different culture. And you'll see that we're not that different, that we're just like you, and that we're very family oriented.
Is it anything of this ideal transpiring in the mural that it's located a few steps from here? Because you were mentioning something about the mural.
I believe it was Cross Keys High School students who painted that mural in collaboration with a local artist.
Correct. It was 3 different schools that collaborated with it. They collaborated with the artist as to the theme, what items it would be, and they also helped them paint it. So.
And that mural is one of the focal points always of a visit. And anyone who comes to Plaza Fiesta for the first time and sees that mural, everybody pulls out their phone and they're taking pictures of it, right? Because it does have that theme of bringing 2 cultures, at least 2 cultures together, and more than 2 cultures really, because the Hispanic culture is not monolithic, as we all know, and there's so many cultures represented. When we say Hispanics in Atlanta, LatinX community, the Latino community, it doesn't mean any one thing. It means many, many different things, and I think that mural helps to convey some of that.
So even that Mexican flag in the mural can be representative of Hispanics, even for people who are not Mexican.
It is the largest ethnicity of Latino Orient here in the state, and there is no one flag for the Latino community. So the students ended up picking the largest representation of it.
Do you see that, you mentioned the children, the kids who are born in the US with Latino or Mexican or Latino families and discovering Latin America by just hanging out here. Where do you see those kids in the future?
Oh, they're going to go into bigger and greater things than their parents. That's why we come out here, right? We want to better our future. We want to better our family. So these kids are going to college, something that most of their parents never did. They're getting, you know, high-ranking positions. Hopefully, some of them are going to go into politics and be able to start directing the Latino community into a bigger and better place.
Well, thank you so much, Vialla, for this conversation. Thank you so much, Julio, for receiving us. And thanks to Plaza Fiesta, this beautiful place.